The storm raged across the barren wastelands of the abandoned mining colony. The sky split open with streaks of lightning that illuminated the harsh terrain. Jagged rocks jutted out of the ground like the bones of a long-dead planet, and the air was thick with the metallic tang of dust and ozone. Rain hammered down in relentless sheets, turning the cracked ground into a quagmire of mud and despair. The only sound, aside from the distant rumble of thunder, was the strained, shuddering breath of a creature fighting to survive. A massive feline form, unlike anything found on Earth, struggled against the pull of a rising tide in one of the colony's forgotten drainage basins. Its coat, once a shimmering silver that might have rivaled the stars themselves, was now caked in grime and soaked through. The alien beast, a galactic lion by the markings etched faintly on its body, had once been a symbol of strength and grace in the service of a royal alien house. But here, far from the gilded palaces of its origin, it was nothing more than a shadow of its former self. Its claws scraped uselessly at the slippery metal walls of the basin, and its growls of frustration weakened into pitiful whimpers. A flash of lightning revealed something even more disturbing. Its left flank was badly scorched, the fur singed away to reveal raw, burned flesh. Whatever had happened to it, the creature had been abandoned, left to fend for itself in a place that offered no mercy. Through the rain, a figure emerged, barely visible against the storm. A human soldier, clad in a battered but functional exosuit, trudged forward. His boots sank into the mud with every step, but he moved with the steady determination of someone who had long since learned to ignore discomfort. His helmet visor glowed faintly in the gloom, scanning the area for threats even as his mind focused on the strange signal that had drawn him here. The soldier had seen his fair share of strange things since joining the intergalactic peacekeeping forces. He'd fought alongside towering insectoid allies, negotiated with sentient clouds of gas, and stared down pirate fleets commanded by reptilian warlords. But this was different. The distress signal he picked up hadn't come from a ship or a base. It had been faint, barely distinguishable from the background noise of the storm, but it carried the unmistakable signature of advanced alien technology. And now, as he approached the basin, he realized the source wasn't a piece of equipment. It was a living creature. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the sidearm holstered at his hip. The galactic lion was legendary in alien circles, not just for its physical prowess, but for its loyalty. These creatures were bred to be the companions and protectors of alien royalty, their intelligence and strength unmatched. But they were also dangerous, especially when cornered or injured. The lion's glowing violet eyes locked onto him, and a low growl rumbled from its throat. It tried to rise, its massive frame trembling with the effort, but it collapsed back into the muddy water with a splash. For a moment, they stared at each other, predator and prey, or perhaps two survivors, each trying to understand the other. "You're not going to make it out of there alone, are you?" The soldier muttered under his breath. He knew the creature couldn't understand him, but speaking aloud made the decision feel less reckless. He holstered his weapon and carefully approached the edge of the basin. The lion flinched, baring its fangs, but it didn't have the strength to do much else. Its breaths were shallow, its body trembling from exhaustion and pain. The soldier crouched down, his gloved hands gripping the edge of the basin as he assessed the situation. The water was rising faster than he'd expected, and if he didn't act soon, the creature would drown. "This is insane," he said to himself, shaking his head. But he couldn't walk away, not when there was a chance, however slim, to save it. He activated the grappling line on his suit, firing it into the side of the basin for support, and slid down into the muck. The stench was overwhelming, a mix of wet fur, burned flesh, and stagnant water, but he ignored it. Up close, the lion was even more massive than he'd thought, its muscular frame now gaunt from starvation. He could see the fear in its eyes, the primal instinct to lash out, but it didn't have the energy. "Easy, big guy," he murmured, reaching out slowly. His fingers brushed against its wet fur, and for a moment, the lion growled again, weak but defiant. "I'm trying to help you." The creature didn't resist as he looped a reinforced sling around its torso, securing it to the grappling line. He braced himself, activating the exosuit's lifting mechanism. With a groan of effort and the whir of servos, he began to haul the lion up the slippery incline. It wasn't easy. The weight was immense, and the rain made every step a battle. But inch by inch, he dragged the creature out of the basin and onto solid ground. The lion collapsed in a heap, its chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. The soldier knelt beside it, pulling a small medical kit from his belt. He didn't have the tools to treat something this severe, but he could at least stabilize it. He sprayed a clotting agent over the worst of the burns, then injected a dose of painkillers into its neck. As he worked, his mind raced with questions. How had this creature ended up here? Galactic lions were rare, their care a matter of prestige for the alien elite. Had it been abandoned, or had something more sinister happened? Before he could dwell on it further, his visor flashed an alert. Movement, several figures approaching fast. He cursed under his breath, scanning the area. Through the rain, he spotted them. A squad of alien soldiers, their sleek armor glinting with the faint blue of plasma rifles. Their gait was purposeful, and they were heading straight for him. He stepped in front of the lion instinctively, his hand hovering over his weapon. These weren't peacekeepers. They were something else. Mercenaries, perhaps, or hunters. Either way, their intentions were clear from the way their weapons were trained on him. One of them, taller than the rest and adorned with markings that suggested rank, stepped forward. Its voice was sharp and mechanical, translated by his suit's eye. "Step away from the creature, human. It is property of the Valen Empire." Property. The word made his jaw tighten. He glanced back at the lion, its eyes half closed but still watching him, and something in him hardened. "Doesn't look like you've been taking good care of your property." He shot back, his voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. The alien leader raised its weapon, the barrel glowing ominously. "This is not your concern. Leave, or you will share its fate." For a moment, he considered his options. He was outnumbered, and their weapons were far more advanced than his own. But leaving wasn't an option. Not now. He didn't know why he felt so strongly about it, but the idea of abandoning the lion to these aliens made his blood boil. The lion let out a low, rumbling growl, as if sensing his turmoil. Its violet eyes met his, and in that moment, he understood. It wasn't just an animal. There was intelligence there, a spark of something deeper. The rain continued to pour, the storm a relentless backdrop to the standoff. The soldier took a deep breath, his hand tightening around the grip of his sidearm. He didn't know how he was going to get out of this, but one thing was certain: he wasn't going to back down. The alien leader tilted its head, a gesture that might have been impatience or amusement. "Last chance, human." He smirked, though his heart was pounding in his chest. "Funny. I was just about to say the same thing." Before the alien could respond, a deafening roar cut through the storm, a sound so powerful it seemed to shake the ground itself. The lion, fueled by a surge of adrenaline, rose to its feet, towering over him. Its violet eyes burned with defiance, and for the first time, the soldier saw the full force of what it truly was: a galactic lion, a creature bred for battle and loyalty. The alien squad hesitated, their weapons faltering as they took a step back. The storm raged on, the tension crackling like the lightning overhead, and in that fleeting moment, the balance of power shifted. The soldier grinned, his pulse racing. "Looks like you underestimated us." The lion roared again, and together they faced the approaching threat, ready to fight for survival. The roar of the galactic lion echoed across the storm-lashed wasteland, a primal sound that sent a ripple of hesitation through the alien squad. Even through the relentless rain, their uncertainty was evident in the way their weapons wavered, their confident postures faltering. The soldier took a steadying breath, his hand hovering near his sidearm. He wasn't sure how much fight the lion had left in it, but at that moment they shared an unspoken understanding. Neither of them was going down without a fight. The alien leader stepped forward again, its metallic voice sharp and precise. "You don't understand what you're dealing with, human. That creature, it is dangerous, more dangerous than you can imagine. Hand it over, and you might leave here alive." The soldier's eyes narrowed behind his visor. "If it's so dangerous, why does it look like you left it to die?" The alien didn't answer right away. Instead, it shifted its stance, and the soldier caught a flicker of something in its expression. Unease, maybe even guilt. But the moment passed quickly, replaced by the cold calculation of someone used to giving orders without question. "Enough talk," the alien barked. It raised a hand, signaling the squad to move in. The soldier didn't wait for them to get the upper hand. His exosuit hummed to life as he pulled his weapon and fired a warning shot into the ground between them. The plasma round hissed as it hit the wet dirt, steam rising in a sharp burst. "Back off," he shouted, his voice cutting through the rain. "I don't know what your game is, but you're not taking this lion." The squad froze for a heartbeat, clearly weighing their options. Then, in near-perfect synchronization, they spread out, circling him and the lion. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical, a reminder that these weren't just soldiers. They were highly trained and likely enhanced. The lion growled low, shifting its weight as it tried to rise fully to its feet. It was still weak, its movements unsteady, but there was a fire in its eyes that hadn't been there moments ago. The soldier could feel the tension radiating from the creature, a mix of pain, fear, and defiance. "Stay with me," he muttered under his breath, not sure if he was talking to the lion or himself. The first alien lunged, its weapon raised. The soldier reacted instinctively, sidestepping and firing another round that clipped the alien's armor. The force of the hit sent it stumbling, but it wasn't enough to take it down. The others closed in, their weapons glowing as they fired bursts of blue energy. The soldier ducked, his exosuit's enhanced reflexes keeping him a step ahead. He rolled to the side, the muddy ground splattering his visor as he returned fire. The rain made everything harder. Visibility was limited, and the slick terrain turned every movement into a potential risk. Behind him, the lion let out another roar, swiping at one of the aliens that had gotten too close. Its claws connected, tearing through the soldier's armor like paper. The alien screamed, a high-pitched sound that was quickly drowned out by the storm. The soldier took advantage of the distraction, firing a shot that hit one of the aliens square in the chest. This time, the force was enough to knock it out of the fight, its body crumpling to the ground. But for every alien they took down, more seemed to close in. The squad wasn't just here to capture the lion. They were prepared to eliminate anyone who got in their way. The soldier's mind raced as he fought, trying to piece together the puzzle. Why were they so desperate to take the lion back? And why had they abandoned it in the first place? None of it made sense. He barely had time to react as another alien lunged at him, its weapon raised. He blocked the blow with his forearm, the exosuit absorbing most of the impact, and delivered a counterstrike that sent the alien sprawling. "I don't know what you're hiding," he growled, his voice low and steady, "but you're not getting away with it." The lion, as if understanding his words, let out a deep growl of agreement. It was still unsteady, its movements sluggish, but it fought with a ferocity that seemed almost supernatural. Every swipe of its claws sent an alien scrambling back, and its roars were a constant reminder of why these creatures were so feared. The leader of the squad barked another order, and the aliens regrouped, forming a tight formation. They raised their weapons in unison, the barrels glowing brighter as they charged for a synchronized attack. The soldier's heart pounded as he realized what was about to happen. "Down," he shouted, diving toward the lion and tackling it to the ground just as the aliens fired. A wave of blue energy exploded above them, the force of the blast shaking the ground and sending chunks of rock flying in all directions. The soldier's exosuit shield flickered, barely holding up against the impact, and he felt the heat of the blast sear through the air around him. When the dust settled, the aliens were closing in again, their weapons trained on him and the lion. The soldier gritted his teeth, his mind racing for a plan. He couldn't hold them off much longer, not without backup. As if on cue, his suit's comm system crackled to life. A familiar voice came through, strained but steady. "This is Bravo Team. We're tracking your signal. Hold your position. We're on our way." Relief flooded through him, but it was short-lived. The aliens weren't going to wait for reinforcements. They moved as one, their weapons ready to fire again. The soldier tightened his grip on his weapon, his body tense as he prepared for the next attack. But before the aliens could make their move, a deafening roar cut through the storm, a sound that wasn't coming from the lion. The ground trembled beneath them, and in the distance, shadows loomed. Massive mechanical shapes emerged from the darkness, their glowing eyes piercing through the rain. The aliens hesitated, their formation breaking as they turned to face the new threat. The soldier's visor zoomed in, and his breath caught in his throat. It was a group of drones, Earth-built, heavy-duty combat models armed to the teeth, and leading them was Bravo Team, their exosuits glinting in the storm as they advanced. The aliens were outnumbered and outgunned now, but they didn't retreat. Instead, the leader raised its weapon, shouting something in its harsh, guttural language. The squad spread out again, their movements more desperate, but no less coordinated. The soldier pushed himself to his feet, glancing at the lion. It was watching the scene unfold, its eyes sharp despite its weakened state. "Stay behind me," he said, knowing full well the lion would do no such thing. The battle that followed was chaos. Plasma rounds lit up the storm, the sound of gunfire and explosions drowning out the thunder. The drones moved with deadly precision, their targeting systems locking onto the aliens and cutting them down one by one. But the aliens fought back fiercely, their desperation driving them to take risks they hadn't before. They aimed for the drones' weak points, using their advanced weapons to disable several in quick succession. Through it all, the soldier and the lion stayed together, fighting side by side. The soldier's exosuit strained under the constant movement, the power levels dropping faster than he liked, but he couldn't afford to stop. The lion, despite its injuries, was relentless. It moved with a grace and power that defied its condition, its claws and teeth tearing through alien armor like it was nothing. When the last alien fell, the battlefield was eerily quiet, the only sound the patter of rain and the hum of the remaining drones. The soldier lowered his weapon, his chest heaving as he caught his breath. He turned to the lion, its silver coat now streaked with mud and blood. "We're not done yet," he said softly, glancing at the horizon. In the distance, more shadows loomed. Reinforcements, no doubt. The lion let out a low rumble, its violet eyes meeting his. It wasn't a growl of fear or anger, but something else, something that felt almost like trust. For a brief moment, the soldier allowed himself to hope. Whatever secrets the lion carried, whatever danger lay ahead, they would face it together. And if the aliens thought they could take either of them down, they were in for a rude awakening. The distant shadows grew larger as the sound of approaching engines filled the air. The soldier clenched his jaw, gripping his weapon tightly. His exosuit's power levels were dangerously low, and the lion, while still standing, was visibly exhausted. The reinforcements would be here soon, and he knew they wouldn't hesitate to finish what the first group started. He glanced at the lion. Its breathing was heavy, but its eyes remained sharp, scanning the horizon. The creature seemed to sense the impending danger as well. It took a slow, deliberate step closer to him, the weight of its massive body causing the mud beneath them to shift. The drones from Bravo Team circled protectively, their weapons ready, but even they wouldn't be enough to stop what was coming. The soldier activated his comm system, his voice tight. "Command, This is Alpha. We need immediate evac. Hostile reinforcements inbound. Situation critical. The response crackled through the storm. Acknowledged, Alpha. Evac en route. ETA, 10 minutes. Hold your position. 10 minutes. It might as well have been an eternity. The soldier scanned the battlefield, his mind racing. The remaining drones could buy them some time. But he'd need to be strategic. The aliens weren't just after the lion. They were willing to risk everything to capture or kill it. That made the lion more important than he'd initially realized. Why are they so desperate to get you? He muttered under his breath, half expecting no answer. To his surprise, the lion turned its head slightly, almost as if it understood him. Its eyes locked with his, and for a moment, he felt a strange connection, a fleeting sense that the creature was more than just an apex predator. The sound of engines grew louder, pulling him back to the present. Through the rain, he saw them. Sleek alien ships descending from the dark clouds, their hulls glinting with a sinister green light. They hovered above the ground for a moment before deploying more troops. Dozens of them. The soldier's chest tightened. This wasn't just a retrieval mission for the aliens. It was an all-out assault. He could see their new weapons glowing faintly, the ominous hum of advanced tech filling the air. Bravo Team's leader's voice came through the comms, calm but urgent. Alpha, we've got your 6, but we're gonna need a miracle to hold them off. The soldier's voice was steady, though his heart pounded in his chest. We're not giving up. They want the lion. We're not letting them have it. The alien troops spread out as they approached, their movements calculated and efficient. They didn't waste time with warnings or demands this time. Instead, they opened fire, their energy weapons lighting up the storm. The soldier ducked behind a fallen drone, his exosuit's shield flaring as he returned fire. The drones around him sprang into action, targeting the aliens with ruthless precision. The air was filled with the deafening sounds of plasma rounds and the sharp crackle of alien energy weapons. The lion roared, its voice cutting through the chaos. It leaped forward, its claws flashing as it tore into the nearest alien. Despite its exhaustion, it fought with a ferocity that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The soldier kept firing, his movements deliberate as he covered the lion's flank. Every time an alien got too close, he took them down with brutal efficiency. But no matter how many they eliminated, more kept coming. Through the haze of battle, the soldier spotted the alien leader from before. It stood at the edge of the battlefield, shouting orders and gesturing toward the lion. Unlike the others, it wasn't focused on fighting. It was coordinating the attack. The soldier's eyes narrowed. If he could take out the leader, it might disrupt their strategy, at least temporarily. He moved carefully, keeping low as he made his way toward the leader. The lion, as if sensing his plan, let out a thunderous roar and charged in the opposite direction, drawing the alien's attention. The soldier hesitated for a split second, then pressed forward, using the distraction to his advantage. The alien leader saw him coming and raised its weapon, but the soldier was faster. He fired a shot that hit the leader's arm, causing it to drop its weapon with a snarl of pain. Before the soldier could press the advantage, a sudden explosion rocked the battlefield. He was thrown to the ground, his visor cracking as he hit the mud. Dazed, he looked up to see one of Bravo Team's drones erupt in flames, its smoldering remains scattered across the ground. The aliens had brought heavier firepower this time, portable artillery that could take out the drones with ease. The odds were shifting against them, and fast. The soldier forced himself to his feet, his ears ringing. He caught sight of the lion, surrounded on all sides but still fighting. It moved with a raw, untamed power, but its injuries were slowing it down. He gritted his teeth, his determination hardening. They couldn't hold out much longer, but giving up wasn't an option. He activated his comms again. Command, we're outnumbered and outgunned. We need that evac now. ETA 5 minutes, came the response. Hold your position. 5 minutes. The soldier's heart sank, But he pushed the despair aside. He had to keep fighting. The alien leader, still nursing its injured arm, barked another order, and the troops redoubled their efforts. The soldier fired at anything that moved, his exosuit's power levels dropping dangerously low. His shield flickered, and he knew it wouldn't hold much longer. The lion let out another roar, but this one was different, less defiant, more pained. It was reaching its limit. The soldier's vision blurred for a moment, exhaustion threatening to take over, but he shook it off. He couldn't let the lion go down, not after everything they'd fought through. A sudden flash of movement caught his eye, and he turned just in time to see one of the aliens raising its weapon, aiming directly at the lion. Without thinking, the soldier threw himself forward, firing a shot that took the alien down before it could pull the trigger. The lion turned to look at him, its violet eyes filled with something he couldn't quite name. Gratitude, maybe, or resolve. Another explosion rocked the battlefield, and this time it felt closer. The soldier staggered but stayed on his feet. The alien ships above them were preparing for a final assault, their weapons charging as they hovered ominously. He activated his comms again, his voice strained. "Command, we're out of time. They're about to level the entire area." "Evac is 2 minutes out," came the reply. The soldier's grip tightened on his weapon as he looked at the lion. "We're not going down here," he said, more to himself than anything. The lion let out a low growl, as if agreeing. It stepped closer to him, its massive form looming protectively. The alien leader raised its good arm, signaling for the final attack. The soldier braced himself, his heart pounding as the alien troops moved in, their weapons glowing with lethal energy. Above them, the ship's weapons began to hum louder, the sound rising to a deafening crescendo. The air felt charged, the storm itself seeming to hold its breath. The soldier's mind raced as he prepared for the worst, his focus narrowing to the lion beside him. If this was the end, they'd go down fighting, side by side. And then, just as the first alien fired, a blinding light tore through the storm, and the sound of roaring engines filled the air. The evac ship had arrived, but whether it was too late to save them remained to be seen. The roar of the evac ship's engines tore through the battlefield, scattering the thick rain and causing the alien troops to falter for a brief moment. The soldier didn't waste any time. His exosuit's HUD blinked a warning about critical energy reserves, but he pushed forward, firing his last remaining rounds to cover the lion's retreat toward the descending ship. The craft's doors slid open, and the familiar sight of human operators filled his vision, weapons at the ready. "Jet aboard now," one of them shouted through the comms, their voice urgent over the storm and gunfire. The soldier waved the lion forward, hoping the operators wouldn't hesitate at the sight of the massive, injured creature. To his relief, the team inside the ship made no move to stop it, their focus locked on the incoming alien forces. But just as hope started to flicker, the soldier caught movement out of the corner of his eye. The alien leader wasn't retreating. Instead, it held a strange, glowing device high above its head, its voice rising in an eerie, guttural chant. The alien troops immediately shifted their focus, no longer firing at the humans or the lion. Instead, they took defensive positions around their leader, as if protecting whatever ritual it was performing. The energy in the air thickened, a pulse of unnatural light radiating from the device and spreading out in rippling waves. The soldier froze, an instinctive chill running down his spine. His comms buzzed with confused chatter from the evac crew. "What is that? Alpha, do you have eyes on this? That energy signature is off the charts." "I see it," he muttered, his voice tight. He turned back to the lion, now halfway up the evac ramp, and made a split-second decision. "Hold position. I'm not leaking yet. Are you out of your mind? Get on the ship." But the soldier was already moving. He bolted toward the alien leader, his boots slamming into the mud as he weaved between enemy fire. The glow of the device intensified with every passing second, and the storm above began to twist unnaturally, forming a vortex that seemed to be drawn directly to the alien leader's position. Whatever it was doing, it wasn't just about capturing the lion anymore. This was bigger, more dangerous than he'd imagined. The lion roared from the evac ramp, its massive body tensing as it watched him run back into the fray. For a moment, it looked as though the creature might follow him. But then it hesitated, its injuries clearly holding it back. The soldier didn't look back, his focus locked on the alien leader and the pulsating device. The ground beneath him began to tremble, cracks forming in the mud, as if the very planet was reacting to the alien energy. The soldier's instincts screamed at him to turn around, to retreat to the safety of the evac ship, but he knew that whatever this was, it had to be stopped. If the aliens succeeded in activating the device, the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for him and the lion, but for everyone on Earth. As he closed the distance, the alien leader turned to face him, its elongated features twisted into a cruel smile. It spoke in its native language, the guttural words incomprehensible but dripping with malice. The soldier didn't need to understand to know he was being mocked. He raised his weapon, aiming for the device, but before he could fire, a sudden burst of energy erupted from it, sending him flying backward. He hit the ground hard, his vision swimming as pain lanced through his body. His exosuit systems flickered, and for a terrifying moment, he thought it might shut down completely. The alien leader stepped closer, its glowing weapon humming with power. It raised the device again, its intent clear. It was about to unleash whatever it had been building up. The soldier struggled to his feet, his breath ragged as he tried to think of a way to stop it. But before he could act, a deafening roar cut through the chaos. The lion. It leaped from the evac ramp with astonishing speed, its massive body slamming into the alien leader and knocking the device from its hands. The glow around the battlefield dimmed for a moment, the energy dissipating slightly as the device hit the ground. The alien troops immediately opened fire, but the lion was relentless, its claws and teeth tearing through their ranks with primal fury. The soldier didn't waste the opportunity. Ignoring the pain in his ribs, he sprinted toward the fallen device. It pulsed weakly now, its power momentarily disrupted, but he knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. He grabbed it, the surface unnaturally cold against his gloves, and turned toward the evac ship. "Alpha, what's your status?" "I've got the device," he said through gritted teeth. "Get ready to take off." The lion let out another roar, its violet eyes locking onto his for a split second before it turned back to the remaining aliens. It was holding them off, giving him the chance to escape, but it was outnumbered. "Come on," someone from the evac team shouted, motioning for him to hurry. The soldier reached the ramp and threw himself inside, clutching the device tightly. The crew immediately began firing at the advancing aliens, covering the lion's retreat. "Get it on board," the soldier shouted, his voice raw. The lion hesitated, its massive frame drenched in rain and blood as it stood its ground against the remaining aliens. For a moment, it looked like it might not make it. But then, with one final, earth-shaking roar, it turned and sprinted toward the evac ship. The ramp began to close as soon as the lion was inside, the engines roaring to life. The soldier collapsed against the wall, his chest heaving as he tried to catch his breath. The crew moved quickly, securing the device and tending to the lion's injuries. But the sense of relief was short-lived. The device, now safely contained, began to pulse again, its glow intensifying despite their efforts to disable it. "Alpha, that thing's still active," one of the crew said, their voice filled with dread. The soldier forced himself to stand, his gaze fixed on the device. Whatever it wasn't done yet. And neither were the aliens. As the evac ship ascended, the soldier looked out the viewport to see the alien leader standing amidst the wreckage below. Its expression was cold, calculating, and filled with a dangerous determination. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The soldier turned to the lion, its massive form lying on the floor of the ship, its breathing heavy but steady. He reached out, his hand resting gently on its bloodied mane. "We're not done yet," he said softly, more to himself than anyone else. The lion's eyes met his, and in that moment, he knew they were in this together. But as the glow from the device continued to grow, he couldn't shake the feeling that they had only just begun to uncover the full extent of the threat they faced. The device's glow grew brighter, casting eerie shadows across the interior of the AVEX ship. The hum of its energy filled the air, pressing down on everyone like a tangible force. The soldier stood frozen, his mind racing for a solution. The crew around him worked frantically, trying to scan or dismantle the alien artifact, but nothing they did seemed to make a difference. Every second they wasted brought them closer to whatever catastrophic event the device was building toward. The lion let out a low guttural growl, its violet eyes flicking between the device and the soldier. Despite its injuries, the creature rose unsteadily to its feet, its massive frame dwarfing everyone else in the cabin. There was something in its gaze, something that went beyond instinct. It was as though the lion understood the danger as deeply as the humans did, and it wasn't about to back down. The soldier's calm crackled, breaking his focus. "Alpha, sensors are picking up an enormous energy spike from your location. What's going on in there?" The urgency in the voice mirrored the dread that had settled in his chest. "We've got the alien device on board," he replied, his voice tight. "It's still active, and I think it's counting down to something big. Get me options. We're working on it, but whatever that thing is, it's completely alien. We can't predict what'll happen when it goes off." The soldier clenched his fists, frustration and fear threatening to overwhelm him. But before he could respond, the ship lurched violently, throwing him and the others off balance. The alarms blared, and one of the crew shouted, "Incoming fire! The aliens are on our tail!" Through the viewport, the soldier saw several alien fighters closing in fast, their weapons lighting up the stormy sky. They weren't trying to destroy the AVEX ship outright. It was clear they wanted the device back. The soldier gritted his teeth, realizing they were being herded, pushed into a situation where escape was becoming less likely by the second. The pilot shouted over the comms, "We can't outrun them with this weight. We need to ditch something, or we won't make it." The soldier turned his gaze back to the device. It was clear what had to be done, but the very thought of it sent a chill down his spine. They couldn't just throw it out. It was too dangerous to let the aliens recover it. Whatever energy it was harnessing, it was far beyond anything human technology could handle. But destroying it seemed just as impossible. The alien leader's confidence earlier wasn't just bravado. It had believed this device was unstoppable. Suddenly, the lion stepped forward, its massive paw brushing against the soldier's arm. The soldier looked up, meeting its intense gaze, and something passed between them, an understanding. The lion's body shifted, its muscles coiling with tension, and the soldier realized what it intended to do. "No," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "You don't have to. There has to be another way." The lion let out a deep rumble, almost a reassurance, before turning toward the device. It crouched low, its injured body trembling with the effort. And then, with one powerful leap, it landed beside the artifact. The crew stepped back instinctively, their eyes wide with confusion and fear. The soldier's comm buzzed again. "Alpha, you need to make a decision now. They're locking onto your engines." Time was running out. The soldier's mind raced, but before he could say anything, the lion placed one massive paw on the device, its claws digging into the glowing surface. The artifact pulsed violently, the light flickering as though it was reacting to the lion's touch. For a brief moment, the cabin was silent, the hum of the device wavering, almost unsure. Then, with a sudden deafening roar, the lion unleashed a surge of energy, unlike anything the soldier had ever seen. Violet light poured from the creature's eyes and claws, intertwining with the device's glow. The artifact shook violently, and the alien energy it had been building seemed to collapse inward, folding into the lion itself. The soldier staggered back, shielding his eyes as the light grew blinding. The air crackled with raw power, and the alien fighters outside hesitated, their movements faltering as though they sensed the shift in energy. The lion's roar echoed through the cabin, a sound of defiance and sacrifice. And then, in an instant, the light vanished. The device lay silent, its glow extinguished, and the lion collapsed beside it, its massive body motionless. The cabin fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the labored breaths of the crew. The alien fighters outside began to retreat, their formation breaking as they turned away. It was as though, without the device, their purpose had been nullified. The soldier dropped to his knees beside the lion, his hands trembling as he reached out to touch its mane. The once vibrant violet eyes were now closed, the creature's chest rising and falling shallowly. It was alive, but just barely. The crew moved quickly, securing the device and preparing for a jump to safety, but the soldier couldn't tear his eyes away from the lion. As the ship ascended into the atmosphere, leaving the storm and the alien forces behind, the soldier felt a mix of relief and grief. They had stopped the device, saved Earth from whatever destruction the aliens had planned. But the cost was almost too much to bear. Hours later, as the AVAC ship docked at a secure station, the lion was rushed into a medical bay, its massive form dwarfing the human doctors and scientists who worked frantically to save it. The device was sealed in a containment unit, its once intimidating glow now completely absent. The soldier watched from a distance, his mind replaying the events over and over. And then, just as he turned to leave, the lion stirred. Its eyes flickered open, faint traces of violet light still glowing in their depths. It let out a low, rumbling growl, weak but unmistakable. The soldier froze, his heart pounding as he stepped closer. The lion's gaze met his, and in that moment, he realized something had changed. The alien energy that had been contained in the device, it wasn't gone. It had merged with the lion, altering it in ways they couldn't yet understand. The creature was no longer just a symbol of primal strength and resilience. It had become something more, something new. As the soldier stared into those glowing eyes, a single thought struck him. The fight wasn't over. The aliens wouldn't stop. They couldn't. And now, with the lion transformed, humanity had an ally unlike any other. The soldier's jaw tightened, his resolve hardening. "Let them come," he murmured under his breath. "We'll be ready." The lion let out a soft growl in agreement, its energy sparking faintly in the dim light. Together, they had faced the impossible. Together, they would face whatever came next. The lion's recovery was slow but steady, and every moment that passed deepened the bond between it and the soldier. The medics worked tirelessly to keep the creature stable, though they often found themselves marveling at its resilience. Despite the extensive injuries it had suffered and the alien energy coursing through its body, the lion was defying all expectations. Its wounds healed faster than anticipated, and though it was clear the energy had changed it, the changes didn't seem to be harmful. If anything, they made the lion stronger. The station bustled with activity as word of the event spread. Scientists and strategists convened, poring over the now inert alien device. The once intimidating artifact was now just a lifeless shell, its intricate markings and once brilliant glow faded into dull alien etchings. For all their advanced tools and scanners, the scientists couldn't figure out how the lion had neutralized it, or how it had absorbed its energy. Theories ranged from genetic compatibility to sheer force of will, but none of them felt entirely right. The soldier, who stayed near the lion whenever he wasn't being debriefed, didn't much care for the explanations. To him, the why didn't matter. What mattered was that the lion had done it, and humanity had survived. The debriefings were exhaustive. The soldier recounted every detail, from the ambush on the storm-ravaged planet to the lion's incredible act of sacrifice. Military officials pressed him for every nuance, particularly about the aliens who had been after the device. They wanted to know everything: their technology, their tactics, their intent. The soldier gave them what he could. But the truth was, much of what had happened remained a mystery. The aliens had been operating on a level far beyond anything humanity had encountered before. Their ships, their weapons, even their motivations felt otherworldly, even for extraterrestrials. But one thing was clear. They had not been prepared for humanity's resilience, or the unbreakable bond between the soldier and the lion. As days turned into weeks, the station became a hub of preparation. It was clear to everyone that the aliens wouldn't stay away for long. Whatever their plans had been for the device, they had failed, and failure would not go unanswered. Defensive systems were upgraded, fleets were mobilized, and alliances with other human colonies were strengthened. The soldier was pulled into strategy sessions, his first-hand experience with the aliens making him an invaluable resource. Still, his thoughts often drifted back to the lion, now fully recovered and patrolling the station as though it owned the place. The lion had become a symbol, not just for the station, but for humanity as a whole. Footage of its heroic act had been shared across colonies, and the sight of its glowing violet eyes sparked hope in people who had long feared the unknown. The soldier couldn't help but notice the change in morale. Where there had once been fear, there was now determination. The lion's defiance had reminded humanity of what they were capable of, even when facing overwhelming odds. One quiet evening, as the soldier sat in the observation deck overlooking the stars, the lion joined him. It padded silently to his side, its massive frame blocking part of the view. The soldier smiled faintly and reached out, his hand brushing against the coarse fur of its mane. The violet glow in the lion's eyes softened, and for a moment, they simply sat together in silence. The soldier found himself speaking aloud, though he wasn't sure if the lion understood him. "You didn't have to do it, you know. Whatever you did back there, you could have died." His voice was low, almost a whisper. The lion turned its head to look at him, and though it didn't respond, there was something in its gaze that spoke volumes. It didn't need words to convey its thoughts. The soldier sighed, leaning back against the railing. "I guess that's the difference between us. You didn't even hesitate. Me? I'm still second-guessing everything." The lion let out a soft huff, almost like a sigh, and rested its head on its massive paws. The soldier chuckled quietly. "Yeah, I get it. Move forward, right? No point dwelling on what's already done." The moment was interrupted by a buzz from the soldier's comm. He answered it reluctantly, and the voice on the other end was sharp. "Report to command. We've detected movement on the edge of the system. It looks like they're back." The soldier's heart sank, but he forced himself to his feet. The lion rose with him, its movements fluid and powerful. Together, they made their way to command, where the atmosphere was tense. The display screens showed a fleet of alien ships entering the system, their formation tighter and more aggressive than before. The station's defenses were ready, but there was no denying the disparity in power. Humanity's fleet was formidable, but the aliens' technology was leagues ahead. The soldier stood among the officers, his eyes fixed on the screen. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This wasn't just about the station, or even the colony. If they failed here, the aliens would push further, and humanity might not recover. The lion stood beside him, its presence a steadying force. The battle that followed was unlike anything the soldier had ever experienced. The station's defenses lit up, beams of energy slicing through the void as human ships engaged the alien fleet. Explosions dotted the blackness of space, and the comm channels were filled with the chaotic chatter of pilots and commanders. Despite their preparation, the alien ships were proving to be as formidable as ever. Their movements were precise, their weapons devastating. But humanity fought back with everything they had. The lion, now fitted with specialized armor to protect its body, joined the soldier on the ground as they led a counter-assault on a boarding party. The alien soldiers were relentless, their advanced weaponry cutting through the station's corridors. But the lion's presence turned the tide. It moved like a force of nature, its claws tearing through alien armor, its glowing eyes striking fear into the invaders. The soldier fought beside it, his rifle blazing as they pushed the aliens back step by step. The turning point came when the lion unleashed a new ability, one no one had anticipated. As it charged into a group of alien soldiers, its body seemed to pulse with energy. A shockwave rippled outward, sending the aliens flying and disrupting their weapons. The soldiers stared in awe as the lion stood tall, its mane crackling with violet light. Whatever energy it had absorbed from the device was now fully awakened, and it was using it to protect humanity. The aliens, perhaps realizing they had underestimated their opponents once again, began to retreat. Their ships pulled back, disappearing into the blackness of space as quickly as they had arrived. The station erupted in cheers, but the soldier felt only exhaustion. The battle had been won, but the cost had been high. Lives had been lost, and the station bore the scars of the conflict. In the aftermath, the soldier and the lion became symbols of humanity's resilience. The footage of the lion's newfound powers spread quickly, inspiring colonies across the galaxy. People began to believe that they could stand against the aliens, that they could carve out a future even in the face of overwhelming odds. The lion, however, seemed unaffected by its newfound fame. It continued to stay by the soldier's side, its presence a constant reminder of what they had fought for. The soldier, too, found himself changed. He no longer second-guessed his actions or doubted his choices. The bond he shared with the lion had given him a sense of purpose, a clarity he had never known before. As the station began to rebuild, the soldier stood on the observation deck once more, the lion at his side. The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of possibility. The soldier knew the fight wasn't over. The aliens would return, and the battles ahead would be even more challenging. But for the first time in his life, he felt ready. "We'll face whatever comes next," he said, his voice steady. The lion let out a low growl, its glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. Together, they had defied the impossible. And together, they would face whatever the galaxy had in store.